Guys, we're literally right around the corner. It's Rams, Bills. It is literally my preview for the Super Bowl. I could not be more stoked. Before we dive into that, though, definitely be sure to hit the thumbs up button throughout this video if you enjoy it. Also, hit that subscribe button as well as the bell icon if you're on mobile. Would really help out the channel. But let's get started. So the Rams and Bills, the last time they played, it was 35-32 on the end of a touchdown to Tyler Kroft on a first down after the Bills had an unfortunate fourth down incomplete pass that for the Rams went the other way. There was heavy contact between both Gabriel Davis and Darius Williams. One is still on the roster. One is not on the other roster. Went over to Jacksonville. But those two had a little bit of contact, and basically it ended up drawing a flag. Led the Rams to losing that game, essentially, putting the ball at the 1 yard line and letting Josh Allen throw a fade in the back of the end zone to Tyler Kroft, who's no longer on the Bills. So fast forward 2 years, and now we're in 2022. Not 2020. Fans are in the stands, and the Rams have just won the Super Bowl. The Bills just took part in one of the greatest postseason games I think any of us have ever seen. So how's this going to go? Well, glad you asked. So we're going to be doing a deep dive into both sides. I'm going to tell you exactly everything you need to know about this game, the history behind this game, all of this. Quite a few former Rams that are now on the Bills. Case Keenum, the former Rams starting quarterback, is the Bills' backup quarterback. Von Miller is another one, obviously. Big name, probably the biggest. Should have probably named him first, but starting outside linebacker for the Rams in the Super Bowl. Helped them win the Super Bowl. He is the starting end for the Buffalo Bills. Roger Saffold, the starting left guard, was the starting left guard for the Rams for a while, and he even started in the Super Bowl against the Patriots in Super Bowl 53. And former Ram here, Corey Harkey, the tight end. He is actually an assistant special teams coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. Aaron Kromer, who I already mentioned, former offensive line coach for the Rams, moved over to Buffalo. He is the offensive line coach there. And last but definitely least, no offense, but come on now. That was mean. Rob Boris, as you guys know, former offensive coordinator for, I cannot even believe I just said that. Former offensive coordinator for the St. Louis Rams and Jeff Fisher. And now he is I believe he was also the offensive coordinator for the LA Rams as well, 2016. And now he is the Buffalo Bills tight ends coach. He's been that way since he left the Rams. So shout out to him. I guess he's really good as the tight ends coach. So that is that, wrapping up those things there. The all-time record between these two teams, well, they've only faced each other a total of 13 times, and the Bills have actually prevailed 8 of them. Yes, they're 8-5 against the Rams all-time. Sean McVay is 5-0 in opening week games, so there's some stuff here. The Bills lead the Rams in series points, 327 to the Rams 271. That is the all-time score. Bills are currently riding a 2-game win streak against the Rams, as you, of course, know. Last time we talked about 2020, but even before that, we had the Nickel Roby-Coleman game that actually probably put Nickel Roby-Coleman on the map for a lot of Rams fans. They signed him not long after that. The most points scored either team has had in a game against each other. The Rams have scored 41, and the Bills have scored 45. You want to find the highest scoring game? It was the 45-27 affair back literally 2 months after I was born in 1995. It is kind of weird how the Rams, they typically have decent records against teams, but for whatever reason, the Bills, they struggled to beat all throughout the time that they've played them. What's important here is the Rams are 1 win away from their illustrious 600th win in the history of their franchise, including Cleveland, St. Louis, and LA. Aaron Donald is 2 sacks away from hitting 100 career sacks, the century mark, and this would be his 127th game. Matthew Stafford needs a total of just 6 passing yards to pass Drew Brees as the youngest player in NFL history to throw for 50,000 yards. So with that said, let's finally get into the game. The Bills' depth chart is as follows. Josh Allen is your quarterback. They have a bevy of running backs here, do all different things. You talk about James Cook, the second-round pick they added. They also have Devin Motor Singletary and Zach Moss to lead out their running back room. They have Tywan Jones, but he's more of a special teamer. In addition to that, they have some good wide receivers. You talk about Stephon Diggs. He is your main guy, but I think you can expect a big game potentially out of Gabriel Davis, somebody that gave the Rams some problems last time, including the most controversial play of the entire game. As I mentioned earlier, the offensive pass interference that, in my opinion, that went defensive pass interference on Darius Williams. Gabe Davis has really emerged. He had 4 touchdowns in the last postseason game, in the last game he played. So I expect him and Josh Allen to be on the same page in this one. He'll be a factor. Isaiah McKenzie is somebody who went from special teams ace to actually having a significant role for the Bills. And so I'm actually kind of interested to see how they use him. He is going to be good to go for this game, according to Sean McDermott. In addition to that, the Bills also have added depth, and one by way of the draft. You talk about Khalil Shakir. If you didn't watch him at Boise State, he was an absolute treat on tape, can break pretty much any tackle, and he can make all sorts of plays after the catch. I doubt we'll see the 5th round pick out of Boise State go nuts in this game. I doubt they'll use him a ton as a rookie, but he is exciting, and he is somebody to look out for. In addition to that, another guy to look out for, former New York Jet, Jamison Crowder, who I think is somebody that can absolutely fill right into the role, whether it's an Emmanuel Sanders role or a Cole Beasley role for the Buffalo Bills. I love him in this offense, and I think he's going to be somebody to look out for in this game. In addition to that, you have Tommy Sweeney, and of course, headlined in the tight end room is Dawson Knox. You have to know where he is at all times in the red zone because he can always creep up in there. Scored a ton last year in the red zone. He's a big-time threat for Josh Allen and the Bills, so look out for Dawson Knox for the Buffalo Bills. From left to right, they got Dion Dawkins at left tackle, very solid left tackle. They got a very good left guard in Roger Saffold, who left the Tennessee Titans, and of course is reunited with Aaron Cromer. At center, they have Mitch Morse, who is a pretty solid center in his own right. At right guard, they have Ryan Bates, and at right tackle, they have David Quessenberry. Ultimately, I think the Rams pass rush can get through this offensive line. I think they're more leaned to the left, so they're very well defended at the left side. That's why I do expect Leonard Floyd to get to the quarterback like he did in the first game in 2020. Had a sack on Josh Allen. I expect the same there. But looking over at the defense, Bills have all sorts of weapons here. You talk about the defensive line, headlined by Von Miller and Gregory Russo. I think a lot of people are going to look at Von Miller in this game, and rightfully so. But I got to say, if you're not looking at Gregory Russo and what he did last year and what he has done throughout his football career, then I got news for you. You are in for a treat. He is a very good player. He is going to be a star in this league. I'm very high on him. I'm also very high on the addition of Daquan Jones. You talk about a guy who can really kind of sift through the trash, can take on double teams, can really just do all the dirty work up front. I think he's going to help a guy like Ed Oliver next to him. And then you also have the added depth there. You talk about having a guy in Shaq Lawson. Of course, you have AJ Epinesa, who could also rotate in, Boogie Basham. The Bills have a lot of talent up front. They have a good rotation of players that they can use. So definitely look out for them because they can stay fresh up front and provide a problem and become a nuisance to Matthew Stafford in that pocket. Moving over to the linebackers, I'm not as high on, but Tremaine Edmonds, while he isn't as good as I expected him to be coming out of college, I definitely do think he's solid. And of course, the Bills love him. So, that's definitely a player there. Another guy who just kind of has a nose for the football, just is always around it, whether he's hopping on it, whether he's, forcing interception or fumble. It's Matt Milano. You know those guys that just make plays? Matt Milano's one of those guys. In addition to that, they went out and drafted Terrell Bernard. I'm not as high on, but they definitely like him. 3rd round pick. Wasn't a huge fan of him coming out of the draft, but clearly the Bills like him. Clearly Sean McDermott did, so they definitely know what they're doing there. I'm not going to question it, but he would be starting there. Since Tre'Davious White isn't healthy yet, the Bills are left with a giant hole at corner. I understand they went through it last year. Doesn't make it any less giant than it already is. They did add Kyer Elam, the rookie out of Florida, a very mature and well-coached player. I do expect him to have a good rookie season, but don't be surprised if the Rams and mainly Matthew Stafford pick on him and his lack of experience early on. There's Cooper Kupp, there's Allen Robinson. It doesn't look like Van Jefferson's going to play, but don't be surprised if they target Kyer Elam. In addition to that is Dane Jackson. The Bills love him. I'm not as high on him. I liked him coming out of the draft, but I wasn't a big fan of him becoming a starter right away. I think he's more of a 4 or 5 on a team. Could definitely make a 53, but I definitely think the Bills are really, really high on him, and that's why he's starting. Then they also have Teron Johnson, who's been a model of consistency as a nickel, so you got to like him there. After that, you have Christian Benford, who might get in a little bit, as well as Cam Lewis, and maybe Saran Neal, who can play both corner and safety, but we'll see. Mainly, I expect special teams from those guys, but definitely guys to look out for. And then the safeties, I mean, this is one of the best safety crop in the league. You talk about a dynamic quadruple. You know, you look at, obviously, Jordan Poyer, what he can do. He has been a model of consistency. He has really turned into an absolute star in this league. In addition to that, his counterpart, Micah Hyde, who, if you don't remember him from the Green Bay Packers, he's only gotten better since he joined the Buffalo Bills. So that's a really good tandem. But the thing that actually blows me away is having Jaquan Johnson and Damar Hamlin as the backups. I think they have, kind of a similar thing with the Rams, but I think they're obviously more proven up front with those two starters. So definitely look out for those guys. And then, of course, Tyler Bass is going to be the kicker. Sam Martin, they just signed off of free agency for obvious reasons I don't have to get into. And once again, the guys to really keep an eye on are Khalil Shakir, who I believe is going to be the punt returner, and Isaiah McKenzie, who will be the kick returner. I think the Bills have a very good roster from top to bottom. You guys know where I am on the Bills. Have them win the AFC, have them play in the Rams in the Super Bowl. But what I will say are a few things. When you look at this team, I do think there's a concern at offensive line, mainly that right side. I think that is enough of a weak spot for the Rams to overload the right side, have some creative stuff going on there, maybe some stunts, keep them off balance, and attack the right side, contain Josh Allen. And, if you want him to throw deep down the field, bait him, trap him. You have the athleticism in the secondary with Jalen Ramsey, with David Long, with Troy Hill. There are so many guys back there. Safeties, you talk about Taylor Rapp and Terrell Burgess, Nick Scott, Jordan Fuller. There is so much athleticism that the Rams could bait Josh Allen into throwing a pick or two if they get the right pressure on him. So then, of course, the Rams. You know them. You probably know their lineup by now, but if you don't, I'll go through it. You got quarterback Matthew Stafford. Obviously, if God forbid he were to go down, you do have John Wolford and Bryce Perkins on the backups there. Can't imagine Bryce Perkins is going to be an active guy since they can only keep 48. So John Wolford will be the backup. At running back is very interesting. Jake Funk will man the special teams. I can't really expect to see 34 in much at all on the offense. But you will see 23, Kyron Williams. He's somebody I'm extremely thrilled about, as well as Darrell Henderson, who's in a contract year. Look out for him. He's got something to prove. I think he's going to have a good season. And then you have Cam Akers, who's wearing number 3 this year. He's coming back from the torn Achilles that he came back from last year. He's had a full off season to kind of work on it. He has been banged up, probably from that, probably stemming from other things as well. So the hope is that he's definitely made some improvements. When you lose an entire season like that due to an injury, it does cost you, because now you basically have to rehab the injury and you can't really focus on doing the little fine tuning of your game. And so I'm excited to see how far his game has come. Has he improved as a pass protector? I keep throwing this at him. I keep saying it because he's capable of being an absolute monster if he can do that. I am concerned, though, that he has lost a little bit of pop, athleticism, whatever you want to say, from that injury. So he's got to prove that he hasn't, and he's going to be able to do that this Thursday night. In addition to that, talking about the weapons, we move over to the wide receivers. I don't think Van Jefferson's going to play. I'm going to be very blunt here. I'm not expecting him to. He didn't practice. I'm not expecting him to play. So you're going to have Cooper Kupp. You're going to have Allen Robinson. After that, yes, Van Jefferson's out, but they did draft a second-round wide receiver in 2021 in Tutu Atwell, who had himself such a great camp that he completely changed the Rams' course of plan. They basically said, look, we're not going to play you in preseason because you're too valuable in the regular season. That's a good sign. Another guy, Ben Skoranek, somebody that the wide receiver coach has been raving about, somebody that Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator, has been raving about, Cooper Kupp talks highly of. Look, this guy, and I understand a lot of people have abandoned him because of his poor play in the postseason. Let's not forget, this is a 7th rounder that wasn't even that featured at Notre Dame. He wasn't even that featured at Northwestern, and now he's being thrusted into a crazy role last year. He's still in that role because he's likely going to start. And so I think this is a huge opportunity for Skoranek, but I also think that we need to understand that he is on this team for a reason, and I do believe there have been strides made. He's either going to prove that he has or he's going to prove that he hasn't, but I think it's very valuable, and I can't speak enough to how much has already been thrown on his plate at such a young point in his career. Tutu Atwell can't say the same. Jacob Harris can't say the same. Really no one on this roster except for Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, and Van Jefferson can attest to any of what I just said. In addition to that, you also have Brandon Powell. Big fan of Powell. He will be your returner, but I also think there's a chance that Brandon Powell gets utilized in the offense. Sean McVay has said he really liked the way, what he gave him, the different looks he gave him on the offense, how he's been playing throughout all of camp, the way he's been performing. They held him out of preseason because of it. Brandon Powell has value. Now, I understand a lot of you are going to want to see Lance McCutcheon, and I want to see him too. But the bottom line is I don't think he's going to play. And while I think he could be ready and absolutely could be better than Ben Skoranek, and he could be better than just about anybody except for Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson, the Rams kept him for the long term. They like him as a long-term guy to develop, a guy that shows a lot of promise, but we still need to have more fine-tuning in his game. So at the end of the day, if you don't see Lance McCutcheon, don't freak out, don't worry, because the Rams are making the best decision. They'll know if he's ready. If he's ready to go and Van Jefferson can't play, maybe that opens up the door for him. They give him a shot. But I do think they want to give Brandon Powell more of a shot. They want to see what they have in Ben Skoranek. They want to see what they have in Tutu Atwell before they start digging into that bin with Lance McCutcheon. Of course, with the tight ends, it's Tyler Higbee and Bryson Hopkins. Very excited for Bryson Hopkins. This is a promotion, in my opinion. Hopkins made the team over Kendall Bland. He's a 4th-round pick from 2020, who I've been very high on. He was my number 1 tight end. I've very much gone on record and said he was the number 1 tight end in that draft. And while the Rams got him in the 4th round, there were still a lot of people that kind of didn't want him and didn't feel like he was a need. Well, here he is. He told me at the Senior Bowl back in the day, he said, look, the Rams envision me and Tyler in a tandem. Well, now they're both in a tandem. We'll see how that works. In addition to that, we move on over to the offensive line. New look offensive line, no Andrew Whitworth, and no Austin Corbett. You're going to have from left to right, Joseph Noteboom at left tackle needs to stay healthy. Simply put, the guy has immense talent. He could be a bookend left tackle for the long term, but he has to stay healthy. That's a big thing there. David Edwards is exciting going into another year of development. They drafted him in the 5th round as one of the best picks that I think they've made from a value perspective, and they got him in the 5th round 2019. He has been huge for them, has been a plug-and-play starter, which you just don't see very often for 5th round offensive linemen. So shout out to him. He's going to be starting there. Centers Brian Allen, again with the health. He's a good player when he's healthy. He was obviously in the Pro Bowl last year, was named a Pro Bowler, but he needs to stay healthy. Coleman Shelton is at right guard, and I'm a lot higher on him than the consensus. I think he's going to have a really good season and surprise people. Rams put him there for a reason. And right tackle is Rob Havenstein. Shout out to him. He got the captain nod. I think it's very well deserved. This guy has been there. He's put in the work. He is one of the top 10 best offensive tackles in all of football. I don't care who thinks it's wrong or right. I do believe that, and I think that he's going to be up for the task on Thursday night. So that is your offense, then your defense, and then your defense, you got your front, you got Aaron Donald, A'Shawn Robinson, Greg Gaines. Really excited to see what Gaines can do this season. He's in a contract year. You look on the outside, I would expect you'll see some Terrell Lewis. You might see some Keir Thomas, but you're definitely going to see Justin Holland starting across from Leonard Floyd. I believe those will be the two starters. The linebackers, Ernest Jones and Bobby Wagner. Can't wait to see 45 in action. A lot of people are excited. I'm definitely one of them. I think, honestly, we've taken Bobby Wagner for granted. I think he's going to be even better than people think, and people are sleeping on him, but that's just me. Then you look at the corners, Jalen Ramsey. I'd imagine he's going to start across from David Long, and I think they're going to use Troy Hill in that slot, that star role. I think they're going to have him kind of, the Where's Waldo role, kind of playing all over. It basically allows Jalen to lock down one specific receiver, Stephon Diggs, and allows basically the athleticism that Troy Hill has and possesses to travel all around the field and be a problem. The safeties, I'd imagine it's going to be Nick Scott and Jordan Fuller. They'll rotate in Taylor Rapp and Terrell Burgess as the game goes on. And then, of course, you have at kicker, Matt Gay. At punter, Riley Dixon. The returner, of course, is going to be Brandon Powell. And that's how you're going to have it for the Rams for their lineup. So with that said, what can we look at? How can the Rams beat the Bills? How can the Bills beat the Rams? Well, I think the Bills, we'll start with the Bills. How can the Bills beat the Rams? I think it's very simple. You want to get after Matthew Stafford. If Matthew Stafford is spending the whole game on his back and you're able to force 3 and outs, and it's hard to force 3 and outs on the Rams. They do a really nice job, I think anyway, of keeping drives extended, especially with Matthew Stafford's ability to extend drives. But if they can't do that, and he's laying on his back throughout the majority of the game, then those 3 and outs are going to allow the Bills to go down the field. And really, what ends up happening is it's a domino effect, because once you start allowing that, then the defense is on the field too long, and then all of a sudden you're going up against a tired defense. You're at the advantage. Basically, you're at the mercy of Josh Allen in this high-octane passing attack. I just don't see this ending well for the Rams if they get into that type of battle. But that's not really what I'm expecting. That's just how I think the Bills can beat them. The Bills can also beat them by forcing Matthew Stafford into some turnovers. I think the Rams are going to be very trigger happy. I think they're going to want to utilize their weapons. They're going to be so excited. Sean McVay is going to be so excited to be able to use Allen Robinson, Tutu Atwell. They can't get too excited because the Bills will also use that shell coverage with the Rams, try to keep everything in front of them, not allow the deep play, and to test Jordan Poyer, to test Micah Hyde. That makes up for losing Trey White. So I do think not having Trey White does make the secondary susceptible to getting beat in the short intermediate game. But I think just the range that you have in the back end and the secondary of those guys is going to be able to neutralize that deep play. Now, here's where having Allen Robinson just changes the game. Because even if they do neutralize it, do you know who's going to beat cover 2 besides Stafford's accuracy? It's going to be Allen Robinson jumping over people and coming down with the football. And that is the thing I have been saying all off season, and why I think he's going to lead the league in receiving yards. He's going to have plenty of those opportunities where he goes up, high points the football, boxes out defenders, plays above the rim, like I've said so many times, probably annoys you by now, and that's what's going to happen. So at the end of the day, I expect the Rams to be able to still pick apart this team, pick apart this defense. Stafford is going to have his way. I do think Josh Allen is going to have his moments as well. I'm going to lean more that this is more of a high-scoring offensive battle than a defensive battle. If the Rams want to beat the Bills, I think that they actually should stick with more of a balanced attack. Don't go too pass happy, although I'm very excited for them to do that. And obviously if it's working, I don't really care. But what I would do instantly is just remember, it's kind of similar. It's not the same team, but it is similar, and it is the same coach. Use Darrell Henderson. Run the ball with Henderson, with Kyron, and with Cam. Darrell Henderson ran for over 100 yards the last time he played this team in Buffalo. Obviously, there's no crowd or anything like that. Times were different, but he has the capability to do that. I think they should run early and often, establish that passing attack with those quick 15 plays, the scripted plays, establish the passing attack, establish play action, and just let it all hang out after that. Because I think really that's the thing, and that's what I think the Rams are ultimately going to do. They might get a little trigger happy, but I think ultimately Sean McVay knows that a balanced attack, both offense and defensively, playing all three phases, playing the run, playing the pass, doing it all, I think is going to be your best bet of beating this Bills team that I do think you're better than, but they will take advantage of mistakes that you make, and they have Josh Allen, who has proven he can come back and make any play, and that's the thing. Josh Allen has become one of the best, if not the best, quarterback in the NFL, and I do think he is a force to be reckoned with. The Rams will have to put pressure on him, force him to make throws that he doesn't want to make, cut down the amount of time that the secondary has to have to cover these guys. There's a lot of talent all across the board. You got to be able to cut corners in a good way and make plays like that. So there's multiple ways the Rams can win. There's multiple ways the Bills can win. But how would I rank this? Who is going to step up? Who are the X factors? We'll start with 3 X factors on the Rams. I'm going to go with number 1 here. The number 1 X factor, I think, is Tutu Atwell. You have that speed that's just game-breaking, okay? If Tutu Atwell is able to get behind this secondary the way he was able to live essentially behind the secondary of the Bengals in the joint practices we kept seeing in those highlights and everything the social media team kept posting, then it's going to be a long day for Buffalo. And it's going to really change the game for how you can really defend this Rams offense. Because it's not just Tutu Atwell getting over the top of defenses, making a big play. It's Tutu Atwell doing that. Now you can't double Cooper Kupp. You can't double Allen Robinson. It's becoming almost unbeatable at that point if you let every single time you're going to let Tutu Atwell go over the top, because now you're going to have to bracket Tutu. You're going to have to do creative things to keep him away from that football because he's explosive. We saw it with Deshaun Jackson last year, albeit wasn't a ton, but we did see what he was able to do against the Buccaneers. And ironically, I have the same score as last year against Tampa in LA, 34-24. I have the Rams prevailing over the Bills, and I think Tutu Atwell is going to catch a touchdown this game. I do think he's one of the X factors. Another X factor here for the Rams. You talk about Tutu Atwell on the offensive side. Well, why don't we go to the defensive side? Why don't we look at what Bobby Wagner can do? This guy's been talked about as he's washed, and for whatever reason, he's not getting his credit now that he's on the Rams. Probably because he's on the Rams. But I think this guy still has so much left in the tank, and I'm very excited to see what he can do playing behind Aaron Donald, which is not talked about anywhere near as much as it should be. So I think Bobby Wagner is going to be an X factor in this game as well. Could come out with a sack, could have an interception. He is another guy. We talked about earlier with Matt Milano being, having a nose for the ball. Bobby Wagner just makes plays on the football, man. And so that is a guy, definitely number 45. He's one of the X factors. The third X factor here is going to be Brandon Powell of the Rams. I think Brandon Powell, whether you call him a kick returner, a punt returner, or a wide receiver, is going to pose a really big threat for the Bills. I think he is such a problem, and that is why he's on this team. The Rams have not only found the returner, but they found a guy that I think is going to emulate what Sean McVay and Jeff Fisher tried to get Tavon Austin to do. I think he's going to do a lot of those jet motions. I think they can use him on quick slants. They can use him over the top. I think Brandon Powell is an X factor in this game that you got to look out for, not being talked about anywhere near as much as a Tutu Atwell or anybody like that. So Brandon Powell, do not forget about number 19, because I know the Bills are definitely not going to do that. Looking over at the Bills' 3 X factors, the first one is Gregory Russo. I just think he is going to absolutely torment Matthew Stafford if the Rams let him. And I think really when you look at it, Von Miller, everyone is going to focus on Von Miller, but Russo is somebody that can blow up this game. And honestly, if you want to look for a comparison, just think about what Jeffrey Simmons did on Sunday Night Football to the Rams when they played the Titans. It's literally that. It's Jeffrey Simmons. It's Danico Autry. The Bills have that kind of defensive line penetrating that could absolutely cause them to have that type of game. So the hope is that the Rams know this, and of course they should, and they're able to kind of keep him at bay. I'm not worried about Von Miller as much as I am Gregory Russo. The cold take, potentially, what I think is actually a real take, not really a hot take, but a real one, is that Von Miller's not going to have the season that everybody thinks. I think people are going to learn really quickly that Von Miller, while he is great, he did benefit incredibly from playing next to Aaron Donald. The second X factor here, I'm going to go with one that maybe people aren't talking about enough. It's James Cook. I mean, I know Devin Singletary was playing good football at the end of last year, and there's a lot of Rams fans that wanted Zach Moss in the draft. But Rams fans, I remember arguing with all of you, not really, but I remember arguing with some of you, you wanted James Cook, and there's a reason. I mean, the guy is very explosive, and he adds another dynamic to this running back room. So when you look at James Cook, I definitely think he has to be considered one of the X factors. He basically becomes almost not really able to be matched up with. You can't really put a linebacker on James Cook because he's so damn fast, because Bobby Wagner, as fast as he is not fast enough to cover Cook, and neither is Ernest Jones. So now all of a sudden you kind of have to put a slot guy on him. You have to change things up. So he does become a little bit of an X factor there. He's number 2. And number 3 here, I'm going to go a little bit out of the box here. And I'm going to say an X factor is Dawson Knox, because we talk about Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and, all those guys, but Dawson Knox, he doesn't care if he has one catch the whole game. If it's a touchdown, it makes sense for Dawson Knox. I mean, the guy finds the end zone. So the Rams, who had issues in 2020 covering, especially Taylor Rapp, who let a wide open touchdown go into the arms of a tight end in that game, the Rams have to account for number 88 Dawson Knox at all times. 100%. You can't let him go by the wayside. So that is my third and final X factor. Key matchup here, the thing that I think is ultimately going to decide the game is, the trenches. Let's be honest here. The Rams' offensive line has to match up well and hold their own against the Buffalo Bills' defensive line. If you let Stafford be able to throw the ball, Rams will probably win most of the time. Same thing with the Bills. If the Bills can't protect Josh Allen, it's going to be a long day. If they can protect Josh Allen and he's throwing with a really clean pocket, it's going to be up for the secondary. It's going to make their job a lot harder. So you got to look at the trenches. So a few stat predictions here. I have Matthew Stafford throwing for 3 touchdowns. I know over on Prize Picks, you can go over, you can click the link in the description and the comment section if you want to join Prize Picks. DT Rams is the code, and you get a 100% bonus match of your first deposit up to $100. So be sure to do that. But yeah, so they have Matthew Stafford 2 touchdowns. I think he throws 3, so I'd be at the over on that. They have Darrell Henderson. I got him at like 27.5 yards. I think he's going to have more than that. But I think the real big thing here is I have Justin Hollins having 2 sacks. I think he is really going to have a good day at the office. Justin Hollins is. Another guy I think is going to have a good day is Jalen Ramsey. I think he'll come down with a pick. And I think at the end of the day, this is a 150-yard Allen Robinson game and 2 touchdowns. I think he blows up onto the scene, kind of like Stafford did last year. Stafford has another great game, but I think this will be Allen Robinson's coming out party, just kind of showing you last year was a fluke. It was a bad situation. We're all good. So that's how I see that going. For the Bills side, I think Josh Allen will have 3 total touchdowns. I think that's absolutely fair. I think at least one of them will be thrown to Dawson Knox. It just seems like if you're one of those guys who bets, anytime touchdown scorer, I would definitely bet on Dawson Knox, and I would bet on Allen Robinson, and I would bet on Tutu Atwell. I think those are the 3 that are like guaranteed to score touchdowns in this game. Feels like a Henderson touchdown run is also in the cards, but we'll see. But that's how I have, those stat predictions. I know a lot of people like those. So yeah, ultimately, like I said, I have 34-24. The LA Rams prevail on banner night. So that's how I have it. Rams move to 1-0 on the season. Bills fall to 0-1. I believe this is a matchup preview for the Super Bowl 57. I know it sounds crazy, but I can't stress it enough. I've never been this convinced. I wasn't this convinced that the Rams were going to play the Chargers last year, but I feel very convinced that the Rams are going to play the Bills in the Super Bowl, and I feel like this is just a matchup preview for that. But let me know what you guys think. Where are you? Do you think the Rams win this game by 10 like I have? 3? Like, what's your point margin? Do you have the Bills winning? Do you have a bad feeling about this game? Let me know. Before I go, though, I need you guys to know that I am doing a watch party for this game on this channel. So if you were here already, you're watching this video, you're interested, be sure to hit the thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the watch party. We're starting at 8, so we're starting 20 minutes early. We'll have a pregame and everything. It'll be a lot of fun. Bring your adult beverage or your soft drink or whatever. Just, hang out with me. We'll be watching the game. I'll try not to go crazy with the play-by-play commentary, but I'm going to have fun. I'm going to be, just enjoying the game, talking with you guys. It'll be a great time. So hope to see you there. Again, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. That is 5 p.m. Rams time, Pacific time. So that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did, again, be sure to hit that like button, thumbs up. And once again, I'm Jake Ellenbogen. I approve this message. Later, folks.